would just be...
How could they... Because a lot of them had self-feeding troughs.
Right.
Self-watering
like
containers.
Water jars. And, right.
and so it...
It was very self-explanatory. I mean, there were bags that represented like feed bags, bags of grain or animal food, and things like that were stacked up. You know, like had their own like bookcase, except it was like for grain bags and things like that.
That's a good explanation of what it was. It was like a bookcase area,
right.
But it was filled. It wasn't a bookcase. It was a grain case.
A grain case.
They even had a place where they could grow their own vegetables.
I thought that was so cool.
Because at that point in time, they didn't eat animals.
Right. It was all a vegetable diet.
And it showed how they could have had... It was like modern day yard gardens that... What do they call... Like Rachel has? What do they call those?
I don't know. Like the garden... Like a flower bed garden type thing. I don't know what they're called.
Well, they have a name, and I can't think of it.
I know they have a name, but I don't quite remember the name.
So, it showed how in a very small area.
They're like flower box gardens.
The box, that's what they're called, I think, box gardens. And thinking about, people act like that's the newest invention of all time.
Right. Yeah.
It's a modern day. Wow.
Right.
And
look what we made.
They were given an example of how they probably, so that they didn't have to bring everything.
Right.
How they could have grown food.
Right.
The another floor had living quarters, and that was pretty neat.
It was.
Not huge living quarters. I mean, let's face it, they were on a ship. Most ships don't have huge living quarters.
Exactly.
But they had that. One of the things that I thought was the neatest was the door.
I did too. That was so cool.
The door where Noah opens and looks out.
Yeah. And
I've got pictures of that from outside and inside that I'll share. And you think of a door. This door was massive, actually.
It was huge.
It would have taken more than one person to swing open the doors and all of that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like some little front door like you go into somebody's house.
I bet you could have driven a couple semis through that.
One for sure.
Yeah. Because it was really big.
And when you see the picture from the outside, you see how that's just a little small part.
Right.
Of the whole one side.
Right.
I mean, it's a fraction of the size of the entire side.
Right. Right.
But when you go inside and you see it, it looks massive.
It does.
And it is massive.
It is massive.
It kind of puts into perspective just how big everything is.
Right.
And how the wow part, it kind of reconfirms that, wow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We've seen it from the outside. It looked tiny. We're standing right here by it on the inside, and it's huge.
And it looked tiny because it was on this huge, massive ship. I mean, it was, so it didn't look proportionate because it was against something so big.
Now, we've had some questions about animals and things like that. All of the animal exhibits on the Ark are artificial.
Right.
Is that the best word?
Yeah, yeah.
They're not live animals. And we watched a video of how they made these things, and it starts out with styrofoam of all things.
Right.
And it was actually amazing, the things that they did. The computer graphics and 3D images and all of this that take place, and then they, basically make a pattern out of it and start out with styrofoam and forming the styrofoam, and it was...
And how the styrofoam was laser cut.
And then how they took that when they put stuff on it and had painters and sculptors.
You know, something I thought was kind of impressive, the guy that was the head of all the people that were the artists, he said, just like when God chose the people for the ark, God also chose the artists to help recreate the ark. And I thought that was kind of cool for him to say.
And he was talking about what he meant was about how God had a hand on what had taken place
right.
in 2016. And he brought together the right group of people to be able to make that happen. And it was just... I think everybody that's had something to do with the Ark is just in awe of everything, even if they've been around it now for a while. I seen one older gentleman that had on a shirt that said, "I helped build the Ark."
I helped build the Ark. I saw that.
And I'm pretty sure he was kind of proud.
I'm sure he was, and with good right.
But for those of you who love animals, fear not. There is a petting zoo.
Yes, there is a petting zoo.
That basically is just getting started. But even with that, we saw sheep, and we saw goats, and we saw donkeys, and we saw llamas, and what do they call those? Alpacas. We saw
emus.
Somebody said we were going to see baby zebras, and somehow they must have heard wrong, or we didn't get to the place where they were.
Yeah, I don't, because I sure didn't see them.
Or maybe they had heard about the baby zebras that were... We took a picture of something that looked a little bit like a baby zebra on the Ark itself.
But you know, I think it was impressive to me, the care for those animals, because they had a specific place. They had where they had the goats and the donkeys and the sheep were all like together. And they had a specific place for those animals to go in. It was a resting center, and that way when the animals got too warm or if they got too tired, these animals knew right where to go, and they would go and lay down and rest, and they had someone that would stand there and stop people and, you know, say, no, we don't want you to go any farther because we've got animals that are resting back here. And I thought that was awesome because they actually showed care.
And there were several animals in the rest. There were several out wanting attention and you know that, but there were several in the rest area where they had plenty of water and wheat or hay and stuff like that for them. So, and like I said, they're just getting started. They don't have their camels there yet. I heard them talking about that.
Camel ride.
And then there was another area where it was going to be a donkey ride that is coming up soon. I have a feeling that every time you go, it's a work in progress. And there's going to be something new to see every time you go.
Right.
So there is a petting zoo.
They actually ask that you don't feed the animals. A lot of places that petting zoos will have where you can buy food and then feed the animals, and they ask that you not feed the animals.
I didn't hear...
Yeah, when I went into the stall where all the animals were, the lady said, all we ask is that you don't feed the animals. So they must have them to where they've got their own little diets, and you know, they don't want them to get overfed or get fat, and so, you know, they really care for them.
And that was another part where there was plenty of help.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Pretty much every place there was an animal, there was a person.
At least one person.
Nearby.
Right.
That could explain anything you wanted to know.
Yeah.
And everybody that we listened to, everybody that we conversed with, were very knowledgeable about whatever their topic was.
Right.
And I have a feeling you would love a job like working at that petting zoo back there.
I would, yes, absolutely love that job.
In the videos that I took video of Amy inside the petting zoo.
I did not know that. That will have to be one that's viewed before it's posted.
Don't worry, folks. It'll be okay.
I'm glad you said that before you posted it. Now I know.
I told you, you go in and I'll sit here and take pictures.
Well, yeah, but I thought you were taking pictures of the animals, not of me.
You intermingling with the animals.
I intermingle with a lot of animals.
So, after the petting zoo, it was time to go. We were tired. We had walked several thousand steps. Our pedometers were going off. Bells and whistles were ringing, saying, "Are you crazy? You never walk that much."
And you're too old to do it now. Well, yours said that.
Yeah, yours just said, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to talk a little bit about some of the controversial things that have to do with the Ark Encounter. I don't want to ignore that, but I don't want to give it a whole lot of attention.
Right.
And that's why I put it towards the end, because it's about the least important thing that we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
But it's there. And I don't want to hide from controversy. There are several groups of people that are very upset that the Ark is there, from atheists to people for the separation of church and state. As we exited the interstate, at the end of the exit ramp where we turned, which means it was the area just to the left of the exit ramp.
This is when we were going into the Ark.
It was a wide open field, and we're guessing that there was probably 150 to 200 protesters, media people, etc.
Well, I think the protesters staged themselves there because they were going to look bigger with all the media, because that's where the media was staged.
So they were there. They didn't disrupt anything, at least not when we went by,
right,
or that we even heard about. I heard very little talk about them.
Right.
It'd be interesting to have watched the news in Cincinnati tonight to see if the protesters got as much attention as the Ark did, which I'm going to guess they did.
I'm sure they did. You gotta love liberal media.
They were about a quarter of a mile from the entrance, and the entrance, you have to drive a little ways to get to the parking lot. So, I mean, they weren't even close,
right,
to disrupting anything to do with the Ark.
Absolutely nothing.
There was plenty of police that were there for traffic control, for
crowd control
if there was needed, and you know, that's that. There was you can go online and find a lot of information about the controversies that have to do with the Ark. There are people upset that there was tax incentives that were given, and if you look enough, you'll find Ken Ham's response to those issues. He has great response to everything that people want to complain about, and the bottom line is that area is going to benefit from the Ark being there in a massive way. And they wouldn't have had those benefits had the Ark not been there.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to say about that. We got a little bit of a taste of how that people felt and things like that when we went to dinner.
Yes, we did, and I was not real happy about that.
The man who took our money, who was the manager of, I'll even say where we were, the Ponderosa Steakhouse that we ate at, we mentioned, well, Amy ordered 6 gallons of tea to go with her dinner. He says, well, we've got sweet tea, but I don't know that we can fulfill that 6-gallon request. And I said, well, I want the same thing. And Amy said, well, that equals 12 gallons then. And so he found out, we told him the reason we were so thirsty is that we had been out and done a lot of walking and where we had done it at. And he kind of instantly snubbed his nose up.
He sure did.
He got a different attitude when he heard
right.
where we had come from. And eventually he asked, don't you feel like that they're just trying to make money off of God? And Amy's response was, why no? and I don't know if that's a legitimate question or not a legitimate question. It was his question. He mentioned the ticket prices, and it's not cheap to go to the Ark.
It is not.
But people make a conscious decision to go. You have the opportunity to either go or not go, and
right.
if you can't afford to go, it's not one of those things in life that you have to do. If you want to go and you can't afford it, maybe you make some sacrifices and don't drink a second cup of tea for a month, and save that $1.29 every day for a month, and I think you'd be pretty close to paying for your admission.
Right. I mean, and it's well worth that. It's well worth, saving up some money to go. Believe me, it was well worth it.
So he said, well, I've been to the Creation Museum, which is a sister to the Ark Encounter, a different, I would say park, but museum is a better term. That's probably about 40 miles away. They're in the same general vicinity.
Right.
Both northern Kentucky, within driving distance of Cincinnati, easy. And it's considered the Cincinnati area, that part of northern Kentucky. And he said, well, I just felt like at the Creation Museum they were trying to make money off God. He said, well, we thought it was worth it.
Absolutely.
And then that's after we sat down and we said, look how many people are in here from the Creation Museum. His restaurant was making money off of the Creation Museum.
Right.
And we were there late. We were there well past lunchtime.
Right. Absolutely.
So no telling how many people that had gotten there early came before we did.
Right.
Or how many people that were still there when we left came after we left. And this is just day one.
Day one. Yep.
And so, I know that there are people that are upset about the fact that you have to be a Christian to work there. It doesn't make sense to me that you not be a Christian and work there.
Absolutely.
How can you...
You've got to have their values in order to promote.
How can you trust the story of the Bible to somebody who's not a Christian?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's not meaning that in a bad way. I mean, they wouldn't hire me to give tours in a Muslim mosque or something.
Right. Absolutely.
I wouldn't know what I was talking about. They wouldn't hire me anyway, even if I did. But the point is, I wouldn't know anything about the subject matter.
Right.
And even if I learned, I wouldn't have the passion for it.
Right.
That somebody needs in order to perform the duties.
Right.
And you could tell, like back at the zoo, the guy that was out there, I'm going to guess was one of the main zookeepers.
Probably, yeah.
And you could just tell he was talking with people. He told us goodbye as we were leaving.
Right.
And you could just tell he liked his job.
But you know what? Even the younger girls and guys that were there, that they actually acted like they liked their job as well. And they were enthused about it. It wasn't like it was a fake put on thing. They were enthused to be there.
Right. I didn't find anything fake about the whole day, except for the animals that were on the Ark.
Right,
There were fake animals on the Ark. Okay, but everybody that we come in contact with were genuine,
Right.
helpful, looked like they liked what they were doing.
Yep.
I didn't see anybody frustrated.
Oh, no.
And if you've ever opened a business, you know that things come up on day 1
Right.
and 2 and 3 and the first week
Right.
that you could get frustrated at.
Oh, absolutely.
And that wasn't evident today. Now, I know they've had some run-throughs with other things that have gone on prior, and I know they've been training for a while. But still, you can't replicate several thousand people
Right.
coming in. I mean, you know, people standing in line at the gift store. You can't replicate that stuff.
Right,
And they were moving people through, you know.
Right.
Plenty of help. All 3 cash registers on each side were ringing people out. And,
Yeah.
and you know, they should be proud of their, I would say, performance.
Well, it was a teamwork effort that was...
They should be proud of the effort that was put in today.
Right.
And it's still going on right now because for the first 40 days, it's actually open from 9 o'clock in the morning until midnight.
Right.
Once the 40 days is up, if they go back to what regular hours are, it'll be something like 10 to 6 or
Right,
something of
like
that.
Right.
And don't quote us on that. It might be on my brochure that I've folded up and wadded up during the course of the show. So they're still there for another 4 hours, almost 4 hours tonight.
Right.
And so you could go in the cool of the evening and still enjoy the things. I don't know if the petting zoo is open at night. I didn't see if there were lights back there or not. I didn't even
think to look. But...
So you might miss out on the petting zoo, but you're going to get the Ark Encounter, all of that. They have a huge restaurant, and we went in and we just didn't stay because we had made plans to go to Ponderosa, and but the prices were good on the food. I mean, it wasn't so that we walked in and said, "Oh man, we can't afford this." I mean, it was what you would pay at a restaurant of that type anywhere. And
they also have a zip line and like a really detailed obstacle course that you can run through. That look, I mean, had I been 30 years younger and in shape, wouldn't have been bad to do. But
I don't think the zip line was working running today.
Right, I don't think it was.
And I don't think the obstacle course really was either. But we went by it, and again, those are things that are going to be part of the whole experience.
Right.
Again, something you can look forward to down the road. They actually have annual passes that you can buy that aren't really out of whack price-wise, especially when you consider the individual prices.
Right.
And the annual pass is good for both the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. And you can go unlimited amounts of times. And for us, it's a good trip. It's a good overnight trip.
Right.
You can make it in one day. We did that to the Creation Museum. It's better if you can go and stay 1 or 2 nights.
Right, I agree.
But from here, it can be a day trip. You're tired when you get done.
Boy. But it can happen.
Yeah, it can. And it does happen a lot. I know a lot of people from this area that go.
Sure.
It only takes a couple of hours of driving. Go and do your thing. A couple hours home. I mean, tons of people go from here to Cincinnati to watch the Reds ball game.
Right.
Go that day, come back after the game.
Right.
So you can go and you can stay, which is a little more enjoyable if you can afford to do that. But if you can't afford to do that or don't want to do that, it can easily be a day trip
Right.
from central Indiana here, and a lot of places in the tri-state area, meaning the tri-state there being Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, in that section. I think I read one time where the Creation Museum was within 600 miles of, I forget what percent of the population of the United States, but it was a big
percentage.
big percentage.
Right.
And so that's one reason why they've selected where they selected, and it's well, it is what it is. Video. I took lots of video today. We took lots of pictures. We've taken more pictures than what's posted on our walls right now.
Right.
It was like a juggling act, trying to see stuff, trying to take pictures, and trying to post pictures. So we were juggling all three. Fortunately, they have free Wi-Fi there. There's another
plus.
Right. So we've got more pictures to post, and I've got several 30-second to 2-minute clips of video from early on our trip before we got there. I'm kind of glad. At first, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get a video of the protesters and stuff, and then I'm glad I didn't. I don't want to give.
Why give them publicity? What I thought was awesome is they were gone when we left. The Ark's still there, and the Ark's going to stay there.
Yeah, they were kind of fair-weathered protesters.
Very, yeah.
You know, when it got hot, they'd be gone.
They'd be gone. That's all right. Let them go.
Let them come. Let them go. You know, the
They're
attitude.
not going to win.
The attitude that I heard from most people that are supporters of the Ark is, let them have their opinion. If they don't want to,
Right.
the Ark, don't spend your $40 and go to the Ark.
Right. Absolutely.
Keep it in your pocket, but don't try to keep us from being able to enjoy
Right.
something and be able. You know, Ken Ham's big thing is that this is to spread the gospel.
Absolutely.
And I hope that one day, every single one of those protesters ends up going through the Ark Encounter and deciding they're going to give their life to Christ. Because, wow.
Yeah, wow. That would be so awesome.
Right now, we'll just take what we got, but I'm going to guess that God will work on the hearts of some of those people, and they will actually become Christians because of their protests today.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because they saw the amount of people that went to this amazing thing, and they're going to get, the curiosity's going to get to them, and they're going to want to see what was so amazing that all these people had to go to. And, you know, so maybe their protest was a seed, planted, and the curiosity's going to get to them, and they're going to go and try to, research it, and they're going to absolutely turn their lives over.
So we got pictures to come, we got videos to come. Bear with us. We'll get them all linked onto the Ed Boston podcast page. If you want to see things right now, you can go to my page or Amy's page, either one. I think they're both listed as public, and see what we've got. It was hard. When I was posting pictures, my application on my phone would only let me post them to my wall. I couldn't post them to my wall and the Facebook page.
Oh.
So I have to do that manually here with my computer. And I'll be able to take the photos straight from my phone, plugged into the computer, and take them straight to the Ed Boston podcast page. We have a closing to the show. We talked not too long ago about Hillsong United having their own page. We shared a I'm multitasking, and that means my mouth isn't working as quick as it should. A trailer that we played the audio for of a few shows back. You know, if I want my scroll to go far fast, it never does. And when I don't want it to go far fast, it zips way on by. So, I know an easier way. I don't know why I don't think of the easy ways first. Why is it that I don't do that?
Because you're a man.
Oh, is that what it is?
Oops, did that come out loud?
That's on the air, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody will listen.
Happy anniversary, honey. I love you.
Somebody will be listening 20 years from now, and they'll say, boy, she was dogging on men.
Well, you know, because I can.
It's a second trailer for Hillsong that's been released. Let Hope Rise film. Let me get to TrevorDecker.com. I don't know why I didn't pick that first. I was looking for the note he sent me. And instead of scrolling, I should have been at TrevorDecker.com to begin with. Film spotlights Hillsong United's remarkable journey from a youth group band at Hillsong Church to a worldwide recording and concert sensation. PureFlix, our friends,
Yay.
is distributing Hillsong Let Hope Rise, the highly anticipated feature film that chronicles the spectacular and miraculous rise to prominence of the Australia-based band Hillsong United. Directed by Michael John Warren, who is famous for Jay-Z's Fade to Black, the film explores Hillsong's journey from a tiny church in the Sydney suburbs to an influential international ministry whose songs are sung every Sunday by more than 50 million people across the globe. Their songs have been translated into 60 languages, and the band has sold more than 17 million albums. Hillsong Let Hope Rise is so much more than a film about a Christian band or even a church. It is truly a theatrical experience, said Michael Scott, Chief Production Officer and the founding partner of PureFlix. It is a dream come true for us as a studio committed to influencing the global culture to partner with a church like Hillsong. There is more to read on that story. TrevorDecker.com. You can look for the headline second trailer for Hillsong, Let Hope Rise film released. But we have the audio to the trailer to play as we end the show tonight. So thank you folks for taking the journey with us tonight to Williamsport, Kentucky, which is just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you for letting us share our anniversary day with you, having fun and something that we're so passionate about. I'm already thinking I can't wait to go back the next time because there's just too much to absorb. There were places that we said, we'll check that the next time.
Right.
You know, if there were a lot of people somewhere, we just went someplace else.
Right.
Because there was no way to absorb everything that was there in one trip. Not that one trip wouldn't be wonderful, because it certainly was. I don't want to discourage anybody from going.
Right, absolutely.
By saying how massive it is. You could go one time in your entire life. Well, let's just put it for us. If we never were able to go again, we can always, one thing, we can say we were there the opening day.
Absolutely.
And we can say we experienced the Ark Encounter.
Absolutely.
And be happy about that.
Oh, my goodness, yes. It was amazing.
So for everybody involved here at the Ed Boston Podcast Network, for Amy and Trevor and all of the people that have helped us through the years, thank you for being with us. and enjoy this trailer for Let Hope Rise. Take care. Good night.
Have a good evening. God bless.
And go out and do the right thing.
What fortune lies beyond the stars? Those dazzling heights too fast to climb. I got so hard to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept low. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground. What treasure waits within your skies? The gift of freedom, gold can't buy. I bought the world and sold my heart. We traded heaven to have me again. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground. Finally here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. Finally here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground. Find me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground.
All right, this is Ed back with you for just a couple of seconds here. I wanted to correct myself. That was not the trailer for the movie. That was the song Touch the Sky by Hillsong United. I always say if I make a mistake, I like to fix it and correct it, and I wanted to do that before we go off the air. So, adios, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen,
Have a great evening.
and do the right thing.